Thank you for joining us on Promising Me Unleashed with our guest, Aliah Williamson, anchor and reporter with WDTN News Station out of Dayton, Ohio. Aliah shares her amazing journey to becoming a reporter and what makes for great news. I am so glad to have you on Promising Me Unleashed.
Thank you so much. It's really such an honor to be here. I've been excited since we first started talking.
Wonderful. Well, I thank you so much. I'm looking forward to all that we're going to talk about today because I love reporting. I love to see what's happening, on camera, of course, and you guys get to see what happens behind camera, on the scene, in action. So it has to be an exciting, exciting career. So just to get started, just share with us how you got started. What was your passion for reporting?
Absolutely. It's such an interesting industry that it's very highly visible, but not really known about too much. Like what goes on behind the scenes, just TV in general. Like we call it movie magic or TV magic
Mhm.
because what goes on behind the scenes would actually, I think, surprise a lot of people. So I did not, well, I started off maybe in high school, like you were saying, at a very young age. I had they would do the news program for high school, announcements and little special presentations and programs. And I always thought that that was fun.
Mhm.
I knew that I liked to talk. I wanted to do something with public speaking and in front of the camera, but didn't really have a good grasp on news,
Mhm.
specifically in the industry, until college. And actually, when
Wow.
I got to college, I switched up a little bit. I wanted to be in public relations, which is
Mhm.
the direct opposite of news. Public relations is how a lot of the time we find out about what news is going on. We find out about stories from companies and organizations. And so I thought I really liked the show Scandal. And I wanted to be like Olivia Pope. I wanted to
Wow.
yeah, the total opposite side, the person who talks to the news and says, this is the story, this is what's going on. I wanted to, get dressed up in fancy suits and
Mhm.
say it's handled. And so I tried out an internship, which I think is very key
Wow.
because when I was in the internship, I realized it wasn't all that I thought it was. And
Mm.
my interest, my passion just wasn't being used.
Right.
I had so many ideas. And funny enough, later on, I found out they were ideas that would have been good for news.
Uh-huh.
So I had these ideas and it just wasn't fitting. So I was a little discouraged, but thankfully I found out about a news internship at college the next semester.
Wow.
And when I tell you it just felt like a puzzle piece, it just felt like, oh, this clicks. I get it. I love it. I had to go to class 8 until probably 5 p.m. And then I had to go to the internship at 5:30 until 11:30. And I had no problem with it. And that's how I knew this was something I really wanted to do and I love to do because I was exhausted but still enjoyed going and had a lot of fun. So once I saw the behind the scenes, I learned how news goes together. I was really inspired by the reporters and anchors and the producers and the photographers and everyone else, editors that I got to meet to pursue that. So once I figured that out, they told me the steps of how to get to your first news job. That includes more internships,
Mhm.
creating a reel. A reel is where it's like a resume, but it's in video form.
Mhm.
So you say, this is where I've been, this is what I've done, this is how I can speak in video form, because of course, when you're applying for a job, they want to know how do you look on camera. So I had to put together a reel, I had to apply the right way, the right times, and the right space. And so once I learned kind of those keys, it progressed from there pretty quickly. And I got my first job in Hagerstown, Maryland,
Wow.
3 days after I graduated.
Wow, that is excellent. Now, when you got to Hagerstown, were you reporting right away?
Yes, I was very blessed to get to start reporting right away. In this industry, there are so many different avenues to getting to one specific spot.
Mhm.
I always say you can ask any one person, and no one person has the same story in life, but also in this industry of how they got to where they are currently, where they plan to go, in what they plan to do next. So I was very lucky to get to start reporting straight off the bat. Day one, hit the ground running.
Mhm.
Like I said, I graduated and I was so excited. We got in the car. and drove me to Maryland from Virginia. So it wasn't that far, but drove right up I-95
Uh-huh.
and dropped me off at my first reporting job.
Wow.
And it gets kind of real then.
Mhm.
Thankfully, I had the internships to give me a little taste, but an internship, I would go maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Got it.
And your real job, it is 5 days a week
Right.
for 40 hours a week.
Right.
It is a lot different to digest and swallow and say, oh, there is no break from this. It is
Right.
here and we're just going to keep on rolling for the rest of my life, or at least career, you
Right,
know?
right. Well, let me ask you a question because this always kind of intrigues me. What makes for a good story? Are there particular steps that they asked you? I can imagine current events, they
Mhm.
always make for a good story, but what steps and what types of stories do news reporters look for? That end up getting reported in the news, or maybe not. Maybe there's some things that they don't think are newsworthy. So, what would be some of those things that would really make for a good report or a
Oh,
good?
that's a very good question. Thanks to, I have been in the industry for 4 years now, and so very much in the digital age. And so a lot of stories are definitely viewer focused because maybe in the past, and I'm not sure because I didn't work then, but in the past, the news comes on at 6. And that's the only way you know what's going on during the day. That's the only way you know, other than a newspaper, what happened in the world, what happened in your city. But nowadays, you know what's happening consistently all the time throughout the day through social media, either on purpose or on accident. And so, what's the point of tuning in at 6?
Mhm.
We have to give people a reason to tune in at 6. So,
Right.
something that's going to be out of the normal,
Mhm.
even if it is your regular average current event story, how can we turn this into something that's going to get people to tune in and sit down and watch it?
Right.
So, a lot of times they tell us to find a character. So, if there's a story, but there's a person who has, it's not always happy, could be sad, a personal connection to this, a personal opinion about this. That's very good. They want us to find that. Sometimes these can be crazy, kooky people. Sometimes these can be really impactful, wise people.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're very angry, frustrated, and people who just want to make a difference. But they always tell us to find a person.
Mhm.
So when we go to maybe a fire at a house, it's not just, well, the firefighter told me it started at 12 and it ended at 12:30, and two cats and one person got out. We
Mhm.
would want to find the person. What
Right.
did this house mean to you? How long has it been in your family? You
Mhm.
just moved here. Wow, what are you going to do now? What happened? What started the fire? Do you feel like anything could have stopped it?
Mhm.
So really asking those types of questions, digging deeper,
Mhm.
diving deeper into the story, you'll see. And hopefully, now that I'm explaining this, when you watch the news, you go, wow, I get it. I see what she's
Right.
talking about.
Mhm.
And the other thing that they definitely want us to do is something that has longevity. So again, going back to what I said before, you get your news all throughout the day. So something happens at 9,
Mhm.
it's old news by 6 p.m.
Right.
So we have to find something that we can talk about throughout the day and we can develop it throughout the day. Use social media, use tweets, Facebook. Okay, this is what happened.
Mhm.
We're discovering this. We're asking these questions because whatever question I have, I'm sure somebody else out there has too. That's something that I've learned a lot as a reporter. And that's my job,
Mhm.
is to answer the question. So if I get to 6 and I haven't answered any questions, you all could have found that out on your own.
Right.
you could have you could have done it all by yourself. So my job, the reason why I am getting paid, the reason why I'm here is to find the answers to those questions and do a little bit of digging and do a little bit of investigating. It's tough because you have to get used to rejection and people not really liking you poking into their business, but you have to handle it very well and not callously.
Mhm.
Some we see people at the absolute worst moments of their lives, the
Mhm.
lowest, most devastating points a lot of times. And I'm not just here to get a scoop or get a story or
Mhm.
expose you. I'm just here to ask questions. We're all wondering, how did this happen?
Right.
So I'm here to ask so that way you watching will say, oh, I was wondering about that. So that's something that I've worked on, and that's what we focus on as far as the news, with finding newsworthy stories. Now, my favorite types of stories are community focused. So if you ever have a question like, I have a really good story I want to share, and you send it to the news and it might not get picked up, don't feel discouraged, because every reporter has a different beat. Every reporter has a different focus. Some days are lighter than others.
Mhm.
I can say that. Mondays are very tough for things that are not hard news. Because a lot of stuff happens on Mondays. They start announcing new laws on Monday. They announce new this, and somebody's got that. And if you pay attention, a lot of scandals happen on Friday because people try to bury them. People,
By
oh,
Monday, right? By Monday, it needs to be over.
yes. They're like, oh, we fired 500 people from this local plant. We're going to send the press release out at 4:30 p.m. on Friday in the hopes that, nobody sees it or nobody will be mad about it over the
Right.
weekend. So just the way the news cycle works too. So if you send it on one day and you don't hear back, don't feel discouraged. I would say if you have a story, send it again on a different day. Reach out to specific people. Find out, for example, people reach out to me and say, we saw that you did stories like this,
Okay.
and I have this story.
Mhm.
Somebody else might be way more into education, and I'm more into hospitals and children's hospitals. So, not saying that I can't do either one, but if you notice somebody, a reporter, you have a favorite reporter who does a story really well, send your story to them, and don't give up, because I'm telling you, hundreds of emails a day. Some are important, some are not.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're mentioning that, because I don't know that people know that they can actually submit a story. I
Mhm,
mean, more readily that they can submit a story. I think a lot of people think the news anchors and reporters just go out and do it all,
mhm,
and they do that seeking and finding stories. But that fact that people can actually go and submit a story, and that you all determine from there whether that's a story that would make the news. I think that's a big issue for some. I know a lot of times we focus on the national stories.
mhm.
You know, how is it? Do you find that most of your reporting comes from local activity?
That's an excellent question, because I'm in it, I know, and I'm realizing, like you said, a lot of people don't know there is a difference between local and national news.
Mhm, mhm.
National news can only handle but so much, and their audience is clearly national. So they
Yeah.
have to make sure that this is something that someone in New York and someone in California and someone in Indiana is going to tune in to watch.
Mhm.
Whereas your local news stations, if you look and you Google, you'll find, because a lot of people didn't know at my first station, people didn't even know what we were or that we were there working. You'll
Right.
find 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 local stations
Mhm.
that are focused on what's going on in your town and your city. And
Right.
what I love about local news is that connection, that
Mhm.
this is something that you care about. This is something that's affecting you. Yes, the national tax changes or a national story, what's happening on the federal level, also is important, but everything trickles down to local. How is this affecting your city, your municipality, even your neighborhood? There are laws that people didn't know about, or different rules that
Mhm.
apply to different areas, and your local news, their job is to break that down and make it make sense to you. And also, we can do things like highlight the local things that are happening. It might not make it national, sometimes it does. So
Mhm.
that's the pretty cool thing is, for example, my station is an NBC affiliate.
Right.
So we are not NBC, we're an affiliate. So if I do a story in my town that appeals to a national audience, all
Mhm.
of a sudden that person is like springboarded to the national stage.
Got it.
So it happens sometimes. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it's just a local story. But you can absolutely submit news, and you would help a news reporter and a news anchor. I'm telling you, they would actually
Love that.
love if you submitted a story.
Right.
And things that I would do to submit a story is answer the 5 W's:
Mhm.
who, what, when, where, why, and
Right.
how. The extra H's in there.
Mhm.
When you come to them with the story, this is who you should interview. This is
Mhm.
why you should interview them. This is where you can do it. And I'm available at, or that person is available at this time.
Got it.
And when or why, like answer all those questions for them in your first initial email. It's very important to be available day of. Because this news cycle moves so quickly,
Mhm.
you might get an email and send it out there and not hear anything for weeks. Or you might send an email and hear back in 10 minutes. Can we interview you in an hour? Because
Wow.
we need to be done by 6 and it's 10 o'clock in the morning and we need to interview you, get the video, and write the story. So it does surprise people a lot when they send me a story. And I say, yes, I would love to talk to you about this. And they're like, oh, well, I'm available next week. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't guarantee that this is still going to be
Right.
a
What is
story next week.
next week, right?
It might be, but I can't guarantee. As you can see, just the way things happen, we could have a massive hurricane that covers 4 or 5 states, and
Right.
sorry, we're not covering anything else.
Exactly. Your news is no longer news. So
Mhm.
what would be like, or should I say, what was probably your most challenging news report? And I'm speaking of Hagerstown first because we're going to get to Ohio.
Okay, so we're still in Hagerstown now.
We're still in
Okay, I
Hagerstown.
have stories in Dayton, Ohio. It's been so long. I cannot think of my most challenging story. Hagerstown was a small town.
Right.
So as far
And
as
that's the reason why I asked, because
yeah.
I'm familiar with Hagerstown. And I'm
Oh
like, what happens up here in Hagerstown? Because the only thing I knew about was the outlets.
yes.
Few offices that I used to visit while I was out there. So I'm saying such a small town. And I didn't know that they had their own local station.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yep, just one in the middle of the Hagerstown, in the middle of downtown. That's where we were. But when I was there, the opioid crisis was a very difficult, it- constantly
Wow.
covering it. That was really tough to cover. And right, actually, the last 2 days that I was there,
Mhm.
heartbreaking story of a teen who was killed by her stepfather, and the body was hid, and they were looking for her for weeks, and we were covering the search
Mm.
for weeks, and then it was genuinely my second to last day they found the body. That was really tough, just covering tough stories and tough news like that. I'm not a big fan, because I'm very empathic, and
Mhm.
so I had to learn how to not take all that heaviness and all that sadness and home. That was really tough. But I would say beyond that, the opioid crisis,
And
very
who would
tough.
have known, because that wasn't covered in our area as a big story
Hmm.
that I'm aware of.
Hmm.
And who would have known that the opioid crisis was impacting that small town,
Hmm.
you know? And those are the kind of stories that you want to know about because people think it's only happening in my neighborhood. When these things are happening globally, you're not getting the coverage about what's happening in other towns, but to hear it from a town that's so small,
Hmm.
and to have such a horrific thing happen. And to your point, how do reporters really separate themselves from becoming emotionally attached to a particular story?
Hmm.
How do they? And I'm sure it's a conscious effort that you have to make to understand that I'm the reporter. I'm going to share this news, but I've got to be able to move on and move beyond the story to be prepared for the next story. Um, and the feel good story that comes, I would imagine, as an anchor person, how do you transition that story to another story when you're actually on camera? What do those transitions look like? Are you taught how to transition?
Yes,
Uh,
that is a very good question because it is a mark of a good anchor.
mm,
And so it's something that you have to train yourself to do to transition between the tough story and the maybe happy story. But
right.
what I've been told by mentors and coaches and things is be a human about it. So you're not a robot who happy switch, sad switch, happy switch. You're
Right.
not a robot. So address, man, that was really tough.
Mhm.
Okay, now we're gonna move on to something a little bit lighter. So address it. That makes you look more human. Otherwise, you're gonna look crazy. Like, did she just say 10 dogs died? And now we're gonna talk about, the Easter bunny? You kind of look a little weird.
It's true.
So
And I will tell you, I have noticed, my husband and I are kind of critiques of the news and the news
yes, that's
reporter.
good.
And we notice sometimes when those transitions aren't smooth,
Hmm.
or it's cut off because now we're on to something else. I thought there has to be some level of training
Hmm.
in that area. And I'm glad that you said that you humanize the stories so that you're not just separating yourself cold turkey, but there's a way to transition from one to the other.
Because the people who are watching are humans too.
Right.
And so you all are gonna be at home like, did she just say that? Like, wait, I didn't even fully get to process that really sad story she just said. So I like to take a moment and say, man, that was really tough.
Yeah.
Thoughts for the family. Now, we have a different story here, or, over in a different city. So that way, moving on. Now, I will say sometimes behind the scenes, things get cut quickly for
Mhm.
all kinds of technical difficulties.
Right.
It's not playing, it's not ready. And then what might have been a better transition is now all of a sudden, woo, I don't know what happened there. So
Yeah.
that can catch you off guard. But that is, again, another mark of a seasoned anchor
Mhm.
who can roll with any kind of punch and not make it awkward. But I will say sometimes things catch you off guard and you're like,
Right.
oh, I thought it was a different story after, and it's not. That's happened to me a couple times. For me, sometimes it's the opposite, where I'm talking about a really funny, happy story,
Mhm.
and the one right after is sad. And so I'm still smiling, and then I'm like, oh, wait,
Right.
right. I might be, joking with my meteorologist, and then the next story is really sad. And I have to say, ooh, I have to,
You bring yourself back in. Huh?
yes, yes. And so it's just about paying attention, being
Mhm.
used to it, and acknowledging mistakes. I hope that people know, as a critique, and I love that you watch the news and aren't a critiquer of the news.
Right.
I hope people give you grace. Like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
okay, that was awkward.
They do.
you
They
know,
do. They do. I'm going to ask you a really throwball question. Of all the news anchors that you've seen, and I'm talking about not just your local news,
Mhm.
I'm talking about the CNNs of the world, Fox. Of all the reporters that you've probably seen, is there one that kind of sticks out to you more than the others?
Yes, my favorite was Abby Phillips.
Wow.
She
See.
sticks out to me because she is so young,
Mhm.
but she is so trusting. Like, I trust her a lot. She calms me down. Whatever is going on, the way that she speaks, the tone and the pace that she speaks is so calm that I feel like she has it in control. And it's so impressive to me because
Mhm.
I watched her a lot during the election coverage.
Right.
She was started as a political reporter and then has had a skyrocket to fame
Amazing
because
career.
they put her on the main desk, which was a good idea for them during the election coverage. This was the strangest election ever. It
It
lasted 4 weeks.
was.
We had no idea when they were going to call anything or why or what was going to happen.
Mhm.
And watching Abby made me feel like no matter what happens, it's going to be fine. Like, she has a very good way of convincing you, hey, I know what I'm talking about. You can
Mhm.
believe me. You can trust me. I know it looks crazy, but things are going to be fine. Like, if there was a
Mhm.
fire or a pandemic or any type of, crisis, I would want to hear her talk me through
Right,
it.
right. And politics is tough. You've got to know some things when you start talking politics.
Mhm.
You have to verify those stories and things like that. I can imagine that can be a bit challenging too, because you're accountable for what comes out of your mouth.
Yes.
So you really, really have to be on top of your game there.
Politics is a big boy, big girl game. Yes.
Right. You don't mind doing the community, news and
That
local
is
news.
pretty much black and white.
Right, right.
Nothing
You
is
know,
so
people
simple.
forget that politics can go in so many different directions. So you're right. She is also one of the ones that I admire. Upcoming, she's bred here, I think in Bowie. She went to Bowie
Yes,
High
she
School.
is.
So give them a shout out too for just producing wonderful students, now people in some very, very high profile careers. So
Mhm.
it's great. Just to kind of transition a bit, when we spoke earlier, you said to me, you said, I'm going to go for my vocal coaching
Yes.
class. And I thought, oh my goodness, she sings too. I ignorant, but I did not know that there was such a thing, titled as such,
Mhm.
for reporters.
Yes.
So tell me, how is that something that you get into or that you're required to do? Is it an option? Is it a part of the path to journalism that you take on this vocal coaching? Just talk to me a little bit about that, because I think people think sometimes that you just naturally, and many of us
Mhm.
um, are naturally gifted in the area, but what is the process, I guess, for reporters and anchors?
I think it's so funny. I might have my anchor voice on a little bit now, but not more
Mhm.
as usual, but my friends and family always joke about my anchor voice. How I talk, when I'm just around the house, and then they hear me switch into
Right.
the anchor voice. And it is a little bit of practice and consistently doing it.
Mhm.
But for me, I look at this as a career, and I find that investing in your career is important. I take it very seriously.
Right.
So I'm always looking for ways to improve and progress. I look for ways to improve my writing. I
Mhm.
look for ways to improve my storytelling skills. And my voice was one. It was never required, and nobody ever said, "This is so bad, we can't have you do this anymore." But
Yeah.
I would always get feedback about my voice and it being too high and it not being taken seriously enough. And I would hear the same thing. So in my head, I'm thinking, if 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people keep saying the same thing,
That's enough of a reference, right? I
I'm
mean,
not going to take
yeah.
offense to it. I'm not going to take it personal.
Yes.
It's just my voice. I'm just going to do whatever. But
Right.
that might be something I could look into. And so I looked into a vocal coach, and she is amazing. She is an NYU professor, actually. We were connected online.
Mhm.
Thanks to the pandemic, I'm able to see her because of virtual
Right.
um, websites and things like that. So she works on me about pacing, tone, and how I can get that tone. We do exercises that way I can deepen my voice, and I can show you in a bit. But
Yeah.
also
I
just
would like to have a lesson.
be a
You
demonstration.
you can
And
teach
then
me.
also, as an anchor, I don't know if you know notice, but how many hours they're on for. So how is that sustainable? How can I use my breath to where I can talk for hours and hours on end, and then come back 4 more days and do it again?
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of we say like 3, 2, and then we say, here we are here at Dayton, Ohio, and this is my news voice, and it sounds a little bit different. I'm gonna come from my stomach. And as a vocalist,
Right.
whereas opposed to when I'm just talking to you like this, I'm talking from up here,
Uh-huh.
and this is not sustainable for 3 to 4 hours on a news desk. And also I was being told that it won't be taken seriously,
Mm.
which it is an opinion that's clearly rooted in science, facts,
Right, because you have personality too. So your personality plays a part in how you deliver the news. I like unique,
Mhm.
but I do sense a standard
Mhm.
to some degree in how news is delivered. And
There's a base, but then once you learn that base, how do you make it into your own so that you can become the next Oprah or the next Abby or the next Robin Roberts or
right.
whoever else? How,
Mhm.
how do you make how that's how those people get into the next stratospheres, because they take the basics and turn it into their own. And for me, like I was saying before, this is my career. I don't want to just stay at the same. I don't want to be good forever.
Right.
Oh yeah, she was good. Yeah, we could hire her. I want them to say, we need her. We need
Yeah.
that. Please keep her. We
Yeah.
want that. We
Mhm.
need to tune in at 6 a.m. on a Saturday for her.
Right.
How can I get people to wake up that early on a weekend to tune in?
Right. Right. That's so good. That's so good. So the vocal coaching really kind of dives into your presentation
Mm-hmm.
of reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
And,
right?
and also not being winded.
Mhm.
That's not going to sound good if I'm reading back to back. I'm like, okay. Taking deep breaths on
Now, I'd imagine that's a little bit
that
different.
girl.
Right, right. We remember her because she can't catch her breath. But but just thinking about the reporting when you're actually on a scene,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that pace of reporting, and then coming into the studio
Mm-hmm.
and having that. So I'd imagine little differences there in
Yes,
pacing.
absolutely. And that's something I'm still working on. I'm only 4 years in.
Mhm.
And so when you're in the studio, there's a teleprompter. When you're
Right.
out in the field, I don't know if anyone will be surprised to know, but it is all here. There
Right.
is no teleprompter out there in the field. So
And I tell you what, I'm glad that you said that too, because some of the reporters, I'm looking at them, but now you can't see their lips. So most of them have on masks, but I'm
yes,
right, right. I don't know whether that's
that has helped me because I can fumble
yeah.
and you can't see it at all.
But some of them are so smooth. I'm saying, wow, does he have a teleprompter right in front of him?
You
And he's
in
talking.
DC, you're blessed to see people who have been in this business for
Mhm.
10 plus years. So they
Right.
have, and think about doing breaking news every day for 10 years, because that's
Mhm.
essentially what we're doing. So it's not once or twice, it's every day. You're going to get good at something if you do it every day.
Right.
So you basically, you learn the basics. You're seeing very seasoned people. And that's the interesting thing about journalism. So if I can share, we have markets,
Mhm.
1 through 200, 1 being New York, 200 being in Alaska, and
Mhm.
every city, every major city falls somewhere between there.
Mhm.
And so they're ranked based off of how many people watch, how big the city is, how much news the city might get. And so Hagerstown is way down in the 100s,
Mhm.
and that's where you want to start, because I wouldn't want to be hired in DC fresh out of college. I mean, I would love to live in DC, live at home, and
Mhm.
way more viewers, way more people to reach. But I can't start making the mistakes that I was making when I was fresh out of college,
Right.
stumbling, not knowing what's important, not knowing how to pronounce things, not having my right voice at the time. So you make your mistakes in these smaller markets,
Right.
and you learn, not saying that these are throwaway markets, like I can do whatever I want. You want to get better,
Mm.
and then that will help you to get to your second market. Some people take 3, 4, 5 markets
Mhm.
before they get to a place like DC. Some people take 2 markets. It just
Right.
depends on your progression
Mhm.
and your expertise as a reporter. And there's a lot that goes into it, not only how you speak,
Mhm.
your delivery. So like you said, when you're watching these people and they look like, if there's a script in front of them, that's years of practice. That's a lot of experience. Some people get it in 1 year, some people get it in 10.
Right.
Not everybody wants to move to DC. Some people only want to move to DC, things like that. So that's why you're seeing people who can just talk very easily and share the information. So that's something that I'm working on, because when I get out there and there's no script,
Mhm.
things they want you to do is keep it simple. So you might have a lot of information, but I
Mhm.
can't remember a lot of numbers off the top of my head. And
Right.
there's no other way. So I need to
Mhm.
keep it simple and maybe give the numbers to the anchor who's in the studio and they can read it. I need to know what I'm talking about. When you know what your story is, you're going to deliver
Mhm.
it confidently. Like I'm talking now, I know about my experience,
Mhm.
so I can talk about it pretty freely. If you asked me about my husband's writing up here, I couldn't even, wouldn't even know where to
That's
start.
great.
I, he's in medical school. I have no idea what that's about. So,
Right, right, right. I think, and you're
yeah.
probably saying, I don't want to venture into that area. I'll report on it, but
So it's about knowing your story. And it's funny because we get a new story every day. So you become
right.
an expert on one thing every day.
Mhm.
Especially the pandemic is a good example. No idea about, like I was saying, medicine. I don't
Right.
know how viruses work,
Mhm.
but somebody at home needs to know. So I need to learn this inside and out. I need to be
Right.
able to answer questions about it, share what I know. And that's why I'm asking questions. I
Mhm.
get to meet with the doctor or the health department. What is the coronavirus? How is it spread? What do we need to do? Answer these questions. So then at 6, I deliver. Hey, I just talked to the health department. They said you need a mask, you need to
Right.
stay 6 feet apart. Things that you learn and you can become confident. That's how you become a confident
Yeah.
deliverer. And I would say that even with public speaking, period.
Oh yeah. Mhm. And I'm glad you said that because, of course, the pandemic is a continuous story.
Mm-hmm.
Ever growing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something to
Changing.
report on almost every day.
Yes.
If it's not a personal experience, or
Mm-hmm.
something's come up in science, or
Mm-hmm.
something happened at the school or the employer. So that's one of those stories that just continues to evolve. And I don't think it's one at this point is going to be a bore to anyone other than everybody asking, when is it going to be over? I
Yes.
don't think a news reporter can answer that question just yet. But those are the kinds of stories that I think people will continue to want to get more information about. Something you said though, so we're going to switch markets now. Now that I know that there are markets, see, I'm learning something.
So quickly too.
So you're in your second market, right? What brought you to Dayton, Ohio?
So now I'm in market 63, Dayton, Ohio,
Okay.
like you said. So I'm making my way up.
Okay.
And I was here because of my lovely husband. I wish I had a picture, but there's no pictures behind me. But my husband, Andrew Williams,
Uh-huh.
at the time we were engaged. And the whole time, ever since we graduated, I wanted to get close to him because I
Mhm.
wanted to be able to be in the same city, same state.
Right.
And so Maryland to Ohio, where he was a 4 hour drive. It's not bad for people still dating. They
Yeah.
got engaged my second year in my first market. And so I was like, well, that's it. I need
Yeah.
pack it up. We're going to Ohio. I don't even know where. I never imagined myself in Ohio. Didn't even know a city other than Cleveland
Right.
and
Mhm.
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, right?
But doing my research into the markets, asking around, networking, I learned about Dayton, which is a beautiful little city. Honestly, I recommend it to anybody who's traveling to Ohio.
Uh-huh.
It's very Midwestern. It's
Mm.
just big enough that you can do lots of things, but it's not no major traffic,
Right.
no major congestion.
Mhm.
So
But you
I
do have more than one stoplight, I'd imagine. So
yes, it's bigger than Hagerstown. Hagerstown was very much a place with one road, like it goes
right.
straight in and out of Hagerstown.
Exactly. Exactly.
So if you're coming from New York, you're gonna go through Hagerstown and go
That's
down
it.
and back up just one road.
Uh-huh.
Dayton has multiple cities and suburbs, lots of places to go, eat, shop,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of news that happens here, which leads me into a funny story. I mean, in 2019, Dayton had two major national stories happen back to back.
Wow.
And I had started, and my first day was Memorial Day. And I'm not sure if you'll know because more people in the Midwest knew about this, but you're a news watcher, so maybe you know. But the Memorial Day tornadoes was 19 tornadoes touched down on the same night in Dayton
Wow. Hmm.
and devastated the town. And I moved 3 days before.
Oh,
My
wow.
first day of work was Memorial Day, and that night, 19, I never experienced one tornado in my life, and 19 of them touched down in the same 50.
Wow.
And so the next morning, I was supposed to get training.
Hmm.
And the next morning, my new boss called and said, "We're so sorry, but we don't have time to train you. Do you think you could put on a t shirt and come report?"
Wow.
And I said,
That's
"Yes."
the perfect storm to me.
Yes, I had gotten my training
Uh-huh.
from my first market. So I knew at least the basics.
Right.
I had no idea the street names. I
Mhm.
didn't know anything at all. But I said, I know that at the time we didn't know how many. But I
Mhm.
said, I know a tornado touched down. I know people are going to need to know where to get water, where to get food, where to get power, how
Right.
to get. They're going to want to know who passed away. Luckily, we only had one casualty, and not in Dayton, but in a city further away. So out of 90 tornadoes, no one died, and no one was even hurt, which was miraculous, pretty much.
Yes.
So that's all I was thinking the next
Mhm.
morning was,
Mhm.
I gotta get to work. People need
Right.
to know what's going on.
On the
And I
route
think
running.
it really made me do my best work ever because I didn't know what was expected at the time. So I was like, I need to give 210% because they need to know they just got their money's worth out of their new high.
Exactly. Mhm. Exactly.
So it was very, very busy time. Very interesting having never seen a tornado before and seeing what a tornado can do.
Mhm.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
And
those are perfect opportunities, though. Just hearing that story, perfect opportunity because the scrutiny that you probably would have been under
mhm,
would have been a lot different. I find that when people are in or there is a tragedy of some sort,
mhm,
it takes some of the pressure off
yes.
because people are trying to figure out one, how to survive.
Mhm,
It's like this pandemic, people were trying to find ways to survive. And it
yes.
wasn't so much a focus on, I didn't get the last of this, or you didn't hand this in, or whatever. You were looking for different ways to really kind of make it through that particular storm. So that had to be
Mhm.
a wonderful time for your introduction to Dayton.
And
What?
I will say the other good thing was because seeing people, I mean, one, the Midwest is full of amazingly nice people.
Right.
And because everyone was stripped down literally to nothing, there was nothing but help. Like everybody, I felt like I made more connections with people
Mhm.
that I still talk to today, two
Right.
years later. People, I'm out here reporting, and people are bringing me food out of their houses with no roof on it, and I'm like, no,
Mhm.
no, this is your food, keep it. But just all the kindness, like you're
Right.
saying, that I saw in the moments of tragedy,
Mhm.
I would say that pandemic, early days of the pandemic, the
Mhm.
early time of the
Right.
pandemic, after we had a mass shooting in Dayton, after the tornadoes, that's when I see the most humanity and the most kindness is right after disaster. So I will say that like being on the front lines of pretty much every disaster.
Mhm.
People are at their worst, but I see a lot more kindness than evil during those moments. So
Right, right. Wow, that's wonderful. So, what are your aspirations beyond I hear the passion, so I have no doubt that this is an area that you're going to continue to excel in. But what areas would you like to go into, or how would you like to grow further in the reporting realm? Like, what would be your dream job or dream aspiration?
we all have a dream job, right? And I love
Right?
asking people this exact same question. I love asking to
Uh-huh.
find out what do you dream about at night? For me, I would love to take news and take my training in news, but I would love to only focus on community stories. If
Wow.
I could take news and cut out every shooting and every house fire and devastating story, I would have the perfect job. I
Mhm,
love when I get to go out and meet the business owner who
mhm,
is donating all their proceeds to frontline healthcare workers. I love to meet the child who's overcoming cancer and their, whole community is coming to rally around them. I love community focused stories. Um, that's my favorite thing to do. Heartwarming. Sometimes they might be sad, but there's always hope. I like to give a good story like that and meet people. My favorite thing to do is meet and talk with people. So I love that part of my job. I get to meet somebody new, or I get to hang out with somebody that I like every day. And I'm gonna go interview them. So at this point,
mhm,
I've gotten to know a lot of the same people who
mhm,
I talk to every day, especially during the pandemic. We talk to a lot of the same business owners, or we talk to the health director every day. And so it's like, cool, I get to see them and talk with them, or I get to meet somebody new. So that's always really exciting. So for me, my dream job is just to be a community journalist
mhm,
or somebody with some type of a show where you can come on and you can talk about your story, talk about what you need, talk about
right,
what you want. So
mhm.
I, I get to do a story like that almost every weekend. And
Wow.
I'm always perusing social media for them because that's the perfect place to see it. People give their friends shout outs. This is my friend, she raised $10,000
Mhm,
for Pink Ribbon Girls,
mhm,
or this happened. And so I love to reach out to those people and say,
mhm.
like, hey, let's talk about this because people need
Right.
to know. I get a little saddened when people tell me, I don't watch the news, it's too sad. I'm like, stick around because every once in a while my story will pop up there. And
Exactly, exactly. And you have actually described Promising Me Unleashed perfectly because
yeah,
that really is our mission. We hear a lot about the sad stories,
mm,
and the reality is we can't get away from them, right?
right.
But I think we can focus our attention
Mm,
on things that bring a level of hope and encouragement through the stories of other people.
yeah.
Your story is wonderful, and you've only just begun, and you're already slashing, making these huge strides, not afraid, uninhibited by external things that could be going on, but being okay in making those moves that really will encourage other people to live out their God-given purpose. And so it's exciting to hear that that's where you're headed in terms of your career and what an awesome career. I mean, how many people get news anchor reporting jobs 3 days out of college?
Thank you.
And then, well, first of all, let me just go back because I want to give you a shout out. Magna cum laude.
Yes,
When
thank
you
you.
went to college, you were not playing.
I enjoyed school.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yes, yes. And it shows, it really shows, and it has flourished into what you are so passionately doing now. So Aliah, who are the people who have influenced you the most and possibly had some impact on your career?
Oh my goodness. You're right. I've influenced every day by every person, I like to say, but my family,
Mhm,
I wouldn't be here without their support and their love. They had no idea what this industry was or what I'm doing.
mhm,
Nobody in my family has ever done anything like this before, but they were behind me all the way. And my dad was like, sure. You're passionate about it. He always likes to say, as a parent, our job is to light and fan the flames. Like, we just are here to make sure the fire grows on whatever it is that you're passionate about. If it's something random I've never heard of, or if it's something that I love to do myself, either one. So I really appreciate that. And, I think that comes from his mom. I know,
Mhm.
my grandmother, Sharon Eads. I mean, just her own influence and her journey in her career definitely is inspiring, and knowing what she overcame, what she did, that trickles down. So work hard in your family relationships, because it matters when it comes to your physical relationship, your career relationships. It Because here I am 2 generations later giving
Right.
credit and credence to my grandmother and my dad for how they've influenced me and keep me going. And they also watch my shows too.
Right. They tune in
I love
any
that.
time of day or night, right? Those are those 6 a.m. folks.
Yes, they are there. And I'm like, I'm glad somebody's watching if nobody else is watching.
My family. I love what you just said, that you said your father said,
Mhm.
light and fan the flame.
He always said that's his only job as a parent. That's what he was.
Oh my goodness. If no one gets anything else out of this conversation today,
Yeah.
light and fan the flame is it.
Because when you see it, you got to make sure it grows instead of stepping on it, because it
Right.
might not be
That's
something that you understand or expect, but you don't have no idea where it's going to go. They could be the best unicyclist this world has ever seen.
right.
You just got to
Right,
light and fan the
right. And
flame.
I think as parents, sometimes we mess up
Mhm.
because we can't see the vision that our children see,
Yes.
but they can see something. Now, we're always very reasonable,
Yes.
and
Within
we know,
reason.
right. We know some things just off the rails. This is not gonna work.
Yes.
But to light and fan the flame of
Hmm.
what really could be
Hmm.
the break in their career, in their life, that is paramount. I don't know whether your father has gotten that from somewhere else.
Yes.
I'm just letting you know right now that
I
I
don't.
believe
I give the
that.
credit to him.
Give him the credit. Find out for me if
Yes.
indeed that's something that he got from somewhere, if it's documented somewhere.
Yes.
If it is not, he needs to know now from his daughter, a reporter and anchor,
Yes.
that light and fan the flame is something that Promising Me Unleashed will be using
Absolutely.
as a
My
tagline.
job as a journalist is to find
That's
out that
right,
kind
you did your job. We're done. But that is wonderful. That is wonderful. And I think that's what reporting is about, right?
all about that.
You're
Yeah.
lighting a flame, meaning you're giving some light
To
to
what?
a situation and a circumstance, and you're just sharing that story.
100%.
It's just that simple.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, thank
Awesome.
you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very, very, very much.
Yep. That's my dad loves saying that.
How can people connect with you? One, either to submit a story or to just gain more information and stay on top of your next move. Because I'd imagine Dayton might have you for a few minutes, but I just don't know how long. So I don't know whether you and your husband are going to settle in Dayton, or is that just a location for now?
I don't know. I really don't. And I'm really grateful to be in a place in Dayton and just in my life where I'm just enjoying every day.
Yes.
And who knows, we both have learned and realized that we can't pre-plan anything when it comes to God. So we've stopped.
Yeah,
We both have
got it.
stopped trying.
Mhm.
But thank you so much. I'm really happy to be part of this program because I could tell it really aligned with my passion and
Mhm.
what I love to do. And so, like you said, I could sit here and talk all day. But if you'd like to connect with me, I am on Instagram, which is one of my favorites. I have 2 accounts. You can follow both. One is News Focus, that is Aliah, Aliah on WDTN. And the other is just my regular everyday life, that is Aliah, Aliah on air. So on air on WDTN. You can follow both. They both have links to each other. So Instagram is my favorite. I am on Facebook at Aliah Williamson, WDTN for Dayton.
Okay.
In. And then, similar to if you'd like to send an email or just ask more questions, maybe you're interested in journalism or public speaking or anything like that, it's Aliah, my first name, ALIAH.Williamson at WDTN.com. feel free. I also love Twitter. See, I'm at a lot of places, but basically all you have to do is type in ALIAH. You'll find me because on Twitter, I'm Aliah on air.
Got it.
So those are all the places. If you ever reach out through email, just tell me where you saw me, or that that you were watching this, or
Right.
that Miss Jones, like, excuse me, please just let me know so that way I can, you know, make sure that because I get a lot of emails. So
Ready, right?
put it in the subject line so that way I'm not like, oh, I don't know what's going on with.
Right, right. Where did she come from? Yeah, I will definitely prepare folks, so that you're not blindsided by anything. But I just know that there are young people who are looking to young people, and you all are really making some huge moves. I kind of look at my age, I double you, but and we've done our part.
Mhm,
We really have. We've kind of gone through the traditional way of achieving our careers and things like that, even though I will say this is definitely a deviation for me, but I'm enjoying the
which
space that I'm
inspires
in.
me because for me it shows that there is never any limit on
E-
anything you want to do. That's
Exactly.
inspiring to me. So
Exactly. And I will tell you, because you all are making these moves so quickly, where we've kind of calculated them, we've let many, many, many years pass,
mhm.
you're showing us that you can do it now. You can really achieve these goals and things now. So I want people to be able to look at you and say, if she can do it, I can do it too. You know.
Yes, genuinely, if I can do, I did not do anything special or different. I promise. I just stuck myself out there. So that's all you have to do is just ask.
Mhm.
Ask for a vocal coach, ask for an opportunity, ask for a chance. And don't be afraid if you don't like it to not do it too. You can also not do it. Like Nike is just do it, you cannot do it.
Right, right. The thing is, do something that's going to have an impact.
Yes.
Don't become stagnant because this didn't work out this time, or I'm not getting. And I'm glad that you said that because people don't like the no's.
Mhm,
You figure, oh, they said no, so maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do. Well,
mhm.
no, it just may mean that you need to dig a little bit deeper, and be okay with the rejection. Someone said, no means next opportunity.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
Next
When
opportunity.
I heard that, I said, that's it exactly. Because I don't care what age your bracket you're in, a no is harsh, especially when it's something that you really want to do.
Yeah.
And I can imagine as a reporter and an anchor, you're going out to do a story and they're like, no, I don't want to talk to you right now.
And I'm like, what? You have to, because I can't go back to the station without you.
Right, right. And if
So
I go back to the station with a no, I better have a good reason
good reason
why
why it's not
I
exact.
got the big no. And you know what? Just to kind of digress for a second, because I do want to go back there. What happens then when you don't get the story?
I don't know because
Okay.
I've never, that's not really an option. You're always going to find a story. It might not be the story, but
Right.
your job is to find a story. Yeah, I'm sure at some point my luck might run out or something, and
Mhm.
will have to say, hey, that's one thing I've had to get better at recently is
Mhm.
I used to stress myself out to the point of sickness.
Oh,
It
wow.
has to work. But now I've learned it will work. Not it has to work. It will work. I don't know what it's going to be. You might be expecting 2 minutes of a story and I have 30 seconds. You can take it or not, but I did it. It
Right.
will work. Something will work.
Mhm.
Something will happen.
You can
Am I
turn that
going
30-second into a 30-second,
the best 30
spot.
seconds you've ever seen?
Right. Yep, that could become a part of the show. I'm watching
Exactly.
some of the bigger stations where they said something in 60 seconds,
Yeah.
and they run all this stuff now. So you can turn that 30 seconds into a whole program of sorts of
Right.
30-second,
And
you
that's with life. Like it might not look the way you intended it or you were assigned,
Mhm.
but that doesn't you lose out a lot when you say no. That's not what I'm supposed to be doing. No, there is an answer right there. Go get it and
Right.
work with it and make it into something for you. So yes, that usually if there is a no, you keep on calling, you keep on knocking. You know do your brain. Okay, who's another person who
Right.
could answer this? What's another way I could do this? What's another way I can show this? Am I going to have to say this on my own?
Mhm.
Like get in front of the camera myself and say, this person did not want to go on camera, but when I talked to her, she said she's not going to talk at all because she doesn't trust media. And that's the story. Like,
Exactly.
it's what she said. She's not on camera, but yeah, that's what happened. I knocked on her door and she closed the door in my face. We understand this is a rough time in her life. She's not going to be answering any questions. Back to you. So,
And that is news,
yeah,
really. Really.
that's
Because
basically what
people will
news
still,
is.
yeah, I was going to say, people will, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm saying that's what news is it's what happened.
Yeah. And people would be still interested in that story.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of funny for that very same reason,
Mm-hmm.
because she didn't want to talk.
Yeah.
Now they really want to know, like, why doesn't she really want to talk?
Let me tell you, that is something that I notice all the time. Whenever you don't want to talk as a company or a corporation when you're in trouble, gonna actually worse. So you might as well just put together a statement. You might as well put your PR person out in front of the cameras, because it does, like you said, now you're like, oh, they were accused of fraud and they don't want to talk. Instead of, oh, they were accused of fraud and they got on camera and they gave a statement.
Yes. That is wonderful. That is wonderful advice. So I so appreciate you, Aliah, for coming on and talking with us today. I know those who are listening just so thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. So I thank you for joining us on Promising Me Unleashed. I hope that you will come back and speak with us again at your earliest convenience, whatever market you're in. We would love to have you back.
It would be an honor. Thank you so much for having me in and having this conversation. I felt so comfortable. You're very excellent at what you're doing. And
You are.
thank you to everyone who's watching too.
Thank you for sure. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having you on again.
Yes. Talk to you soon.
Please join us next month, May, in recognition of Mother's Day and Mental Health Awareness Month, where we will honor moms of children diagnosed with mental illness. We'll see you May 20th at 8 p.m. on the Promising Me Unleashed YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe, like, and share, and we look forward to you